Grandma is old, but the lighthouse is older, much older. It was already old when Grandma was a little girl, when she lived in the village behind the dunes. She dreamed about it, that later on, when she grew up, she'd live in the round room high up in the lighthouse. And her dream came true, because living in the round room was Jonas, the son of the lighthouse keeper. And Jonas dreamed about Grandma, before she was a grandma, when she was just a happy girl with apple-red cheeks. Oh, thought Jonas, if only she'd let me kiss those cheeks, just once. And she did, years later, after a dance in the village hall. She let Jonas kiss much more than that. Her hair, her little ear with the hair combed over it, her neck, and her autumn red mouth. Jonas asked her to go with him to the town clerk's office, and then to the church, and he lifted her over the lighthouse threshold and carried her in his arms up the long, long stairway to the round room where Grandma, who still wasn't a grandma but a beautiful young woman, looked out across the sea and dreamed a new dream. Her dream was called Little Jonas, and little Jonas arrived on a beautiful day in the early spring. A funny little boy with sweet little ears that glowed red in the evening when he was tired, like two glowing lanterns. Little Jonas grew up and went dancing in the village hall on weekends, just like his father Jonas had done before him, where one evening the most beautiful girl in the village let him kiss her on the cheek, and not only her cheek, but also her hair, and her little ear with the hair combed over it, and her neck and her mouth. And he told Grandma, who still wasn't a grandma, that he was going to take his girl to the town clerk's office and to the church, and that they were in a bit of a hurry because his girl had a beautiful round belly that got a little rounder and more beautiful every day. And he went with her to the town clerk's office and to the church, but he didn't lift her over the threshold, and he didn't carry her up the long, long stairway to the little round room in the lighthouse where Grandma, who was almost a grandma, had already made space for them. The lighthouse was too small for Jonas. He wanted to take his bride to sea and out into the wide world, and one evening he knocked on his mother's door and asked her to take care of her grandson, who was named Jonas, just like him. He thought the world was a bit too wide for such a little fellow. And Grandma, who now really was a grandma, carried her grandson up the long, long stairway to the round room high in the lighthouse, and put him to sleep in the little bed where his father and his grandfather had also lain as children. And when little Jonas was sad, she picked him up and walked him around the room, rocking him in her arms and singing a song, the song of the sea. And as she sang, she thought of the son of the lighthouse keeper who had kissed her apple-red cheeks so long ago, and who not so long ago had died. And she also thought about her own son, for whom the lighthouse was too small, who had taken the most beautiful girl in the village to sea, and had gone with her into the wide world. Jonas grew up, and Grandma taught him the song of the sea and all the other songs she knew. And she told him about Grandfather, what a fine dancer he was, and how fondly he kissed her. And she also told him about his father, who roamed the oceans with the most beautiful girl in the village. Your mother, Jonas, for whom the lighthouse cast out its light at night, when it was dark, so his parents wouldn't get lost and would always be able to find their way home. Grandma also taught Jonas how to grow vegetables in the little garden below the lighthouse, how to care for the chickens, how to gather fresh eggs, and how to slaughter a chicken every now and then and cook it with fresh herbs and a dash of red wine. She taught him the names of the stars and the secrets of the seas, and she taught him how to light the fire in the lighthouse when evening fell, and how to put it out the next day with the first glimmer of morning. Jonas learned quickly, And the day came when he could do everything himself and Grandma could do less and less. She could still manage the long, long stairway going down, but the way back up was harder and harder on her stiff old body. And Jonas had to pick her up and carry her, just as she had carried him up the stairs the day his parents had gone out into the wide world. And when Grandma forgot to light the fire in the lighthouse one evening, Jonas understood that it was time for him to take over that job. Grandma didn't have to work anymore. Jonas tended the vegetables in a little garden below the lighthouse, gathered eggs, slaughtered a chicken every now and then, cooked, did the laundry and made the beds, just as he had learned from her over the years. Grandma rocked back and forth in the rocking chair that Jonas had made especially for her and had put in the nicest place in the round room. From there she could look out across the sea that held no secrets for her. She waved to the ships that went past and softly sang the song of the sea and all the other songs she knew.
Ebb and flow, everything's fine, let it go.
In the evening, after Jonas had lit the lighthouse fire, he would sit down beside her and they would drink tea and look together at the stars and at the light from the lighthouse that swept across the water in endless repetitions. Grandma had withdrawn into the past, when she wasn't a grandma yet, but a lively girl with apple-red cheeks and an autumn-red mouth, and when she gave Jonas a sideways glance and said, "You may kiss me if you want," Jonas would grab her hand and tell her the story of the evening dance in the village hall, as she had told him so often when he was still a little fellow for whom the world was too wide. And Grandma would smile and answer, "Yes, yes, that's how it was. That's just how it was." Every evening, Jonas would have to tell the story all over again, until one evening Grandma interrupted him and asked, "You see that island there, Jonas? That island with the lighthouse? See it? Can't you take me there just once?" But Jonas didn't see any island. "Don't you see the light in the distance?" "That's the light from a ship, Grandma." And Grandma was silent. But the next evening she asked again, "You see that island there, Jonas?" And Jonas didn't say anything. But that didn't seem to bother Grandma. "That's the island of eternal youth, Jonas. The island where time stands still, where the wind blows apples onto your cheeks, where music plays and people dance the way they did in the village hall. The evening the son of the lighthouse keeper kissed me on my cheek, and my hair, and my ear, with the hair combed over it, my neck, and my autumn red mouth. I see him standing there, Jonas. He's waving to me. He's shouting something. Can you hear what he's shouting, Jonas?" Grandma began to wave and to cry out, "I'm coming, Jonas. I'm coming, and we'll go dancing, and I'll let you kiss me wherever you want."
Ebb and flow, everything's fine, let it all go.
With a smile on her old aptly wrinkled face, Grandma fell asleep. Jonas covered her with a blanket and crawled into bed himself. And when he got up at the first light of dawn, he saw the rocking chair was empty and the door to the long stairway was open. He wanted to run downstairs, but then he looked below and saw a lonely little boat sailing away from the coast. He opened the window. "Grandma!" he cried. "Grandma!" And answering him, he heard the song of the sea. Jonas watched the little boat until it disappeared from sight. Then he turned around and put out the lighthouse fire. A new day was dawning. He walked down the long, long stairway, went up to the dunes, and looked out across the empty sea, and he knew, "Tonight I'm going to the village hall, and I'm going to dance with the most beautiful girl in the village, and afterwards she'll let me kiss her. Her cheeks and her hair, and her little ear with the hair combed over it, her neck and her autumn red mouth."